All right. I think we are live. You guys getting me out there? Welcome back. All right. I think we're doing good. We making it? Yeah, we're making it. How you doing? How's your week? How's everything going? How's your creative projects? Did you get that work done? Well, if you didn't, maybe now you can do it with me. I'm Trey Gallaher. I will be your lovely host for the evening, if you're hanging out with me, that is. I'm an illustrator, artist, painter, educator, visual developer, art dad. And tonight is stream night, and we're going to hang out for a bit. We're going to continue working on Dad's birthday gift this year. Dad's birthday is coming up, and we started this last week on the stream. And so we're going to continue with trying to add some ink to this puppy. Maybe some gray tone. I'm not sure. I'm going to get as far as I can with ink and see what happens from there. I don't know. I'm going to kind of play around with it. That's the fun about all this, is I don't 100% know what I'm going to do. But I'm hoping that we'll find our journey and we'll find our path along the way. Working on toned paper with some graphite over the top. I was using last week ebony layout pencil, nowadays made by Prismacolor, but used to be made by a different company. And also liking to use the General's layout pencil, which I like a little bit better because it's a little more coarse, has some texture to it. Really like this puppy. But also good old standard classic ebony, extra smooth jet black. So good tone, good paper, and a good start from last week. So we dove in last week and we talked a lot about my dad and his influences on my life. And this has been kind of dedicated to him last time and this time for his birthday. So, Dad, if you're watching this, my duder, I love you. And thanks for everything. And I hope you have a great birthday. Enjoy the making of this art. Now, what he doesn't know is that next week he'll get this art. So, it'll be fun. And to be able to have him watch this. So maybe he'll go back and watch this stream. I don't know. My dad's a pretty hip dude, so we'll see. What other we got? Any other news going on? I'm trying to think here. Oh, make sure you pull yourself up a beverage. Got this cup years ago from my nephew, Maticus, as I like to call him. This is my nephew thinks I'm rad. And I love coffee. He got me this awesome mug years ago. And art rocks my socks. So I've gotten this. Gosh, it's probably been 10 years ago. He's all grown up now. Thanks, Maticus. Still using it. So yeah, pull up a beverage. And let's hang out a bit. If you got some work of your own to do that. Let's do this together. I don't usually play music, as I like to say, because we keep the discussion centered around design and the materials and what's happening here. This also gives you a chance to listen to something that maybe you want to listen to in the background. And I got something going in my head. I got Guns of Brixton going right now. Little punk tonight. But actually, I think a little clash, but I will be jumping over to a little more of my sci-fi influences and my science influences, thinking a lot about my dad. One of the great albums that I used to listen to with my dad, because he had a cassette recording of it, was the original soundtrack to Carl Sagan's Cosmos, the show, which if you were a kid in the 80s, like I was, late 70s, early 80s, you remember this show on TV. At least I did. And it had some amazing, amazing music. So I'm actually going to switch over now and find me some Cosmos. I found this on CD years later, but it was only on cassette tape when I used to listen to it as a kid. My dad would listen to it in the car. Amazing piece of music. Really kind of conceptually makes you feel like you're traveling through deep space, maybe on a mission or something. A lot of interesting sounds. But also, it had some Vivaldi on it, and going back to the seasons, and interesting nature sounds and original recordings from like tribes, I believe, from around the world. It had all kinds of interesting sampling music on it. So kind of epic. So I'm going to play a little bit of that in the background. And then I may jump over to a little on the fantasy side, maybe do a little Star Trek or a little Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica. I don't know. We'll see. So put something on that you want to listen to, and it'll be fun. We'll all be listening to our jams. All right. Well, let's dive in here. I'm going to jump back in with my layout pencil. And one thing I realized looking at this thing, and I probably should pull up my references here, because I had a couple of things I was looking at last week. I had sort of a shot of my dad that I had pulled up from something a while back that was kind of similar to this angle. They gave me something to work off of a little bit, although I'm changing some things about it. But then I also realized, and this is why we do research, is that, I'm looking at some of my research about astronauts and the different things that astronauts wear, and, you learn. That's the greatest part about doing illustrations and art that is sort of coming from real life information, is that you have a chance to learn real life information. That's like the greatest part of being a visual designer and a visual developer and an artist, is that you get a chance to learn in order to become somebody who can recreate it. And so, like we talked about last week, sciences and artists have never been that far apart. Philosophers, thinkers, these are people that ask questions. So I think that's one of my favorite parts about being an illustrator and about being an artist, is a chance to learn about the natural world, which is amazing. And so I was kind of looking at this and realizing that I had forgotten a few critical pieces of information that I think that would really make this better. One being that usually when the astronauts are wearing these helmets, that they are wearing an inside sort of shower cap or a headpiece that kind of fits tighter around their head. Now that's going to cover part of my dad's head, but I've got other drawings of my dad's head that are probably fine. And given that this is going for the theme of being an astronaut in space, let's go for the real. You know what I mean? Why not? So, just getting up a couple of reference shots, and I'm just looking at stuff on the internet because I'm not really pulling from any one particular thing. It's more like I'm just trying to find a general idea of what's there, and then I can kind of pick and choose what I want to have in there. So I'm just kind of looking at what all astronauts, and I'm looking at images of astronauts from, all over the world, different countries, and they all have this sort of inner hat. I'm not sure what they call this thing, but it's sort of like, and I'm going to sketch this in. So it looks like it covers their ears, and it kind of comes around maybe underneath their jaw. It's like almost like a shower cap or something. And most of the time it looks like it covers their hair. And then it looks like it's got a little bit of this kind of headpiece in it. Like maybe these sort of patches over the ears. And yeah, this is going to cover part of Dad's face, but I think in the end he would appreciate the sort of realism that goes along with this. Looks like they put some sort of radio gear, earpieces inside, and then this kind of covers their head. And I'll stick a little closer to his head there. All right. So hope you're doing good this evening. Welcome, welcome. If you're just jumping in, the chat is open. Hey, looks like we got a few folks already. Sorry about that, guys. I wasn't looking down. What is happening? Citos. The hazmat? Is that a link, or are you giving me the name of the hat? We are talking. What's up? What's up? Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming by. I appreciate it. Come draw with us. Come hang out. Reminder to everybody, the chat is open, so you're welcome to dump some messages in there if you want. If you don't, you just want to listen, that's fine. That's totally cool. I'll encourage you to join the Discord channel, which I have, that goes kind of along with this. So if you want to jump in there and afterwards and continue the discussion of whatever we cover here, that's totally fine. I've kind of put that out there a little bit. So I think this hat, in order to start the hat back a little bit, because the idea is that the head kind of is pinning the hair down there, and I don't want to make it too perfect, so I think all the same rules of drawing heads applies. Like, don't make them too perfectly round. Look for the flat spots. We always look for the flat spots. Trying to find just the right shape. You know, it's kind of funny. This is just reminding me of another thing that I've inherited from my dad, which is the love of Monty Python. Oh yes, my dad raised me proper with the Holy Grail, and this actually reminds me of Monty Python's Search for the Holy Grail, because King Arthur and those guys, those knights, they wore many times like an inside kind of cloth shroud around their head. What's up, B? Yeah, I figured that out. Good to see you, man. Thanks for coming by. I appreciate it. Good to have friends here in the stream. So, yeah, Monty Python, and I remember seeing the Holy Grail as a kid, and my dad would be laughing, and it took me a while to get it. Being a kid, you're like, "What the heck is this? Is this for real?" Like, these knights are attacking this castle, and then all of a sudden, the fourth wall comes crashing down when all the ambulances come and charge in from present day back in. So you have this sort of present day meets the old days, and that's, you know. I guess I don't want to give too much away about the end of the movie, but I just remember being a kid and going, this is some weird, disturbing stuff. But of course, growing up in a household with people with Scottish blood, we understand humor. So, yeah. Knights of the Round Table. All of it, you know? What is the airspeed of an African-laden swallow? All of it. Classic. Great stuff. So, yeah. Another big influence from my dad in my life was the sense of humor. Okay, sense of humor. Python. Monty Python. I think I'm going to bring in the back of the head here just a little bit, because these things fit tight. That's what I'm noticing, is that these things like clamp down to the head a lot. So it looks like there's kind of like an earpiece maybe that's inside here, and then there's sort of the secondary back of the helmet that's sort of shown there. That feels pretty good. Then it comes up on the forehead. My dad has these sort of beautiful, even, wrinkly lines. Did it go in the upper part of his head? I think I'll detail a little bit more before I start inking today. Also, I was kind of noticing, let's see, I got the back of the inside of the helmet here. And of course, that's sort of continuing around. Hey B, if you got a plug, by the way, feel free, throw into the chats if you got something you want to plug, or it's okay. Friends of the family here get to get some free plugs. So I was looking and I was noticing that this thing I think got a little too steep on me. So this is going to be like the back of the glass. So sort of like hits the edge. Maybe it kind of curves like that. So that's a little bit of the, what I guess what we would call is like the interior shell. It's really kind of like a slot that this glass goes into. But then I was noticing a lot of these helmets also have an outside shield, which is what I think I'm going to make this one, which is this, I don't know if it's like UV light or it's polarized. It almost looks like it's got gold in it because they have, it's like a shield that would continue to wrap and come around over the top of the bubble, like a secondary piece. So I'm going to kind of clean up here a little bit. So there's sort of the outer piece. Be what you've been up to. Enjoying graduation. Get ready. Mr. Citos and I go way back. Great artist. Great animator. Good storyteller. Okay, so we got the sort of inside shell here. And I'm assuming there might be some lights like illuminating his face, because usually, you know, they have lights that kind of cast a little light up. So I imagine that somewhere in here I'm going to try to create a little bit of light maybe from underneath. But really, I want more of the light coming from above. Now, we're working in grayscale or black and white here. So most of what you see is going to become a black line, or it's not. It's not going to be there at all. So I'm kind of have to pick and choose my battles. There can't be a whole lot of color, and nor will there be a whole lot of, gray tones. So if it's there, it's going to become a black line. So I was noticing there's a couple things. One, I might have him smile a little bit too. I kind of like the idea that he was seeing something interesting that he was looking at, that's my dad. My dad is usually looking at things and going, what would that be? Like, I love it watching his brain move and thinking about stuff. So I'm trying to think a little bit about how I could create that. But at the same time, I want him to also be kind of amazed. Because I think the thing that my dad taught me was to be curious and to ask questions. I come home from high school and he'd be like, "Did you ask any good questions today?" Not just high school, but even going back farther than that. What? You're having a baby? Congratulations, man. Wow. Sorry, I just looked down again. Awesome. Welcome to the club, brother. Art dads. We're out here. It's a real thing. So, yeah. Hazmat, how are you? Sorry, man, didn't mean to not catch your scroll there. Thanks for coming by. Howdy, nice to meet you. I don't know if we actually know each other. Sometimes it takes me a while to learn people. Maybe you know me. I don't know if you do, but maybe you could let me know in code. If we don't, nice to meet you. Welcome to the stream. I'm usually out here, by the way, on Saturdays. Saturdays is the most common, but sometimes Sundays, depending on how the weekends go. I try to be as consistent and steady as I can, but you know how it goes. Weekends come, you got to get stuff done. Dad, soccer games, all that good stuff. Lots of projects to work on. So sometimes I can't get out as frequent as consistently all the time as I want to, but for me, I enjoy coming out here. I am a teacher, so a lot of my time is also prepping and doing teaching work or anything like that needs to get caught up on. So I'm a busy guy, guys. All right, so there we go. It's funny, you make these little bits of changes, and I see more of my dad come out, and then little bits kind of, oh no, that's not quite him. But we're mostly there. But I think I'm going to probably end up lighting and shadowing a lot of this stuff. Okay. So we got the edge of the beard. Yeah. My dad has the master beard. Nice beard. I got more of my mom's hair genes. So I can't quite get the foliage. Nice. So are you talking about hazmat B? Are you talking about our friend here tonight, or are you talking about somebody else? I didn't see you talking about. Okay. So we got a little bit of the neck's going to have some light on it. Actually, a lot of this neck will probably have some light on it. So I should probably kind of consider a little bit of where the light's going to be. Okay, got the inside of the helmet there. Coming around. Hazmat, welcome. Any friend of B's is a friend of mine. Good to have you aboard. Glad to hear you're learning. What kind of games you guys playing? What kind of stuff? I think I was a little bit high on this side of the eye. So a little bit of that kind of looking up. All right. Imagine this will probably be pretty dark, this stuff up here. Now I'm thinking in terms of inking here, right? So, you can just shade when you work in pencil, but here's the thing. You know that this is going to be something that's going to ink. So when you shade, you can kind of inform yourself when you're drawing and shading things that will help inform your inking. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing. I mean, you can ink with texture, you can feather an edge, you can, use spot black and fill solids. These are all sort of, things that you can inform yourself with the shading that you're doing. So in this case, I'm staying pretty loose. I'm working off of a sketch, and some of those decisions I will make when I actually get into it. But for now, I just want to keep the idea of some of his loose hair as flipping out from underneath the spacesuit, because it looks like, I'm looking at a variety of pictures, and it looks like that kind of thing happens a lot. Little bits of their bangs or whatever kind of maybe hangs out the front of the suit there. All right, so this is all the kind of seal, double seal, kind of locking in there. Oh, I drive by NASA Ames almost every day. And again, isn't life weird? Like, here I am doing this thing about NASA and my dad, and every day I drive by NASA Ames in Mountain View, California. And not only do I think about my dad every time, but I was then thinking about my logo. I'm like, you know what? I gotta check that logo a little bit more. And I realized one additional piece that I was missing was this elliptical. There's another kind of orbiting line. Because I'm like, what was I doing, man? Totally missed that. Okay. Got to do your research. Got to get your references. They also have these little stars. I don't know. This is going to be in black and white, so I'm not sure how much of this I'm going to put, but I'm going to suggest some of the stars here. I'm just kind of looking at NASA's logo. Maybe I'll come down a little bit on this line. It's supposed to be kind of flattened out on this kind of vest here too. So the idea is that the suit is bent. The patch is kind of dimensionally wrapping there. So one of the other things, again, of the many millions of things that my dad influenced me, was knowledge of how astrophysics and our understanding of space came about. Kepler, was really big, but and probably one of the more pronounced people who got credit for our understanding that the world is round and that we orbit a sun and all these different things. But really, Kepler got his math from a Danish astronomer named Tycho Brahe. So this was my dad's hero. In fact, when we went to Europe when I was a kid, we took a big Europe trip and we went and saw where Tycho Brahe was buried, which is actually in Czechoslovakia, in Prague. He's buried in the main church there, and so we actually went to that church where they have like a sort of dedication to him in a small way to Tycho Brahe. But Kepler's work wouldn't have been possible without Tycho. So Tycho was the mathematician, and really my dad's major was math. He found physics later, but like math was his thing. So he always really appreciated this guy Tycho Brahe, because his was the math that made it so that Kepler's calculations, could be realized. And had it not been for Tycho, that would have changed the whole story, really. So, but he doesn't ever get much attention. So my dad, again, always the underdog, really appreciated the work of Tycho Brahe. So we got a chance to go check that out. So yeah, so we had a chance to see that. Now, what was interesting about Tycho Brahe, he was this Danish astronomer, and I guess the guy had a big time temper because somebody challenged him. Um, challenged him in a bar or something. I'm trying to remember how the story goes. Sorry, Dad. In a bar over something. It was a duel, and so much so that he got pissed off, and they decided they were going to have a duel, like a swordsman duel, a dueling of swords, and he got the tip of his nose whacked off in a battle. Can you imagine that? There goes the whole front end of your nose is like whacked off in this sword fight. So what was interesting about him is that he had a prosthetic nose that was put on the end of his nose. And that was sort of one of the amazing things about this guy, Tycho Brahe. So my dad's hero is Tycho Brahe. So I have to find some way to get Tycho in here. And I'm thinking like maybe I could like put something that would be like, because it seems like most of these patches are kind of like space programs and things like that. And since this is my dad's spacesuit, I got to get Tycho in here. It's TY. I think it's CHO. And my dad's hero. My dad. This is how cool my dad was. So to explain this story to his physics classes, he would dress up in a Danish outfit with the sort of Elizabethan collar and the tights and the whole thing. Awesome. Can you imagine your physics teacher doing something like that? I'm telling you, physics teachers are the greatest. They're awesome. They have a sense of humor. I mean, how can you not look at the natural world and have a sense of humor to it all, right? Like, as much as we think we can control our lives and everything that's happening in the world and all this kind of stuff, I mean, you realize like how much nature is really the one that's just in control, and we're just kind of along for the ride, right? So how can you not look at the greater sense of life and the meaning of it and all the things that are possible and not kind of laugh at humans a little bit? Like, come on. That's just something that seems to happen. I'm going to go ahead and it's going to look a little distorted, but that's okay. It kind of hides it. And these patches kind of get warped and stuff. Okay, so we'll put here Tycho. This is the Tycho patch. And I don't know what more I would put here. Maybe I could put the the Brahe in a sort of 60s. I don't know if that looks like an R. Brahe. Ugh. I might have to redo that. Let's try that again. Start over here a little bit farther. See, now this is going to be more like, my dad was a child of the 40s, but, their heyday was sort of the 50s, early 60s. So I think a little bit of San Francisco, and although my dad wasn't in San Francisco, he wasn't far from there, but for part of the time. This will be his fun little dedicated patch to Tycho. Maybe it's some sort of space program dealing with calculations. I think there might be a moon or something is named after Tycho also out there. My dad would probably be... Dad, I'm sorry if you're disappointed. I can't remember. Maybe a nebula or someplace in space. My dad would know. So this will be some sort of patch there. Not absolutely essential that it's, readable 100%. Okay, so let's see. So this spacesuit is kind of here. We got the shoulder going there. The science of motion. Yes, great class, B. That's a good one. That's exactly it. Physics for animators. And again, artists, we study motion. So yeah, we'll throw in the sig over here, little signature, sort of kind of hidden in the piece. And I think I'm going to kind of fade things out, truthfully. I don't really want to get caught up in too much detail. I figured this might be some sort of shoulder patch or something. All right. We added the hat, the addition of the hat. Oh, one thing these astronauts also have, which I have to have, is this little microphone. Yeah, because you got to talk to Mission Control or your podcast. There you go. Roger, Mission Control. Ground control to Major Tom. My dad had good music too. He introduced me to the Doors and Creedence Clearwater and Eagles. Don Henley and Joe Walsh. Glenn Frey, the Beatles, the White Album. All right. I think we're about there. Okay, so we got the hat on, we got the microphone, and yeah, I think that's pretty good. It's enough for me to start inking anyway. Oh, yeah, sorry. One other thing. Critical. First of all, I want to darken some of this stuff in here. And a little bit in here. But I wanted to... So this will be an exterior shell. So the first shell is going to kind of... come in there. And then the outer shell... sort of go right there. Okay, that there were sort of these nebulas. So let's see. I'm thinking about maybe like a spiral. I thought the reflections... I don't know if I can pull this off. If I can pull it off in inking. It's one thing to pull it off in a tonal drawing. It's another thing to pull it off in ink. But I thought I might try some sort of spiraling galaxy. Maybe the Jupiter over here, which will be sort of our little tribute to Clark. 2010. little nebula action going on. I like, maybe the Cassiopeia, maybe the Big Dipper, maybe Orion. Orion would be a good one. Where I grew up, we could see Orion like every night, like Orion's belt. Maybe like the Horsehead Nebula over here, which, that might be kind of cool. These would be sort of reflecting in the glass. Again, I don't know how much of this stuff is going to actually be seen. We'll find out. With ink, it's tricky, but again, I should probably get some reference to know exactly what the Horsehead Nebula looks like. Okay. All right. Oh, yeah, we were talking about the maybe the patch. NASA, the United States, space program. All right. That's enough to get going, I think. So, light coming from above. So I know that I'm gonna be putting some shadows in here. So I know that some of this, and I'm not sure how I'm gonna do it, but he's gonna get some shadows under his eyes a little bit. And this is the part that I don't want to poke out his bone structure too much, but there will definitely be some shadowing going on here. So I think I'm going to have to dig in a little bit on the shading. Have to figure out how much there. Because I'm going to create this sort of effect that light is maybe coming from above. So a little bit under the nose, there'll be some shadows in here for sure. Better to do it in graphite now, right? Before you dive in and have to do it in ink. A little strangeness on the eye there. Yeah, I'm really glad I did a little fresh eyes on this. Sometimes we do a drawing on something, and if you really got to get it to look like a thing that people are going to maybe recognize, or somebody will recognize, somebody that you are concerned will recognize it, you got to get fresh eyes. My dad's got a little lid there. Inside of the eyes. Okay. Cheeks, edge of the nose. That probably means the underside of the nose is going to get some shading. His beard will probably go into highlight, but there will probably be some shadow under the beard, under the nose. Although we'll see how intensely I really want it. I just wanted to give a sense that light was coming from above. A little bit of illumination. Check against a little bit of reference here. It's got a little, Dad's got a little bit of a crease. A couple little creases here. Not too much though. And he's kind of scrunching his forehead a little bit because he's looking up, right? Kind of doing that kind of thing, kind of scrunching. All right. Be little lights on the inside here. Inside of the helmet, there might be a little light band that will sort of illuminate up here. Looks like these things, you know, I'm not holding one of these things, but I'm assuming that they have some sort of strap that goes under the chin. Kind of encompasses the head there. Okay. All right. Let's do this. I think we're ready. Now, what I've learned about this paper, and I'm working on toned paper, so I'm not really interested in doing a whole lot of gray if I can help it. I might do a little bit, but we'll see. What I know about this paper, this is not outstanding, thick, amazing paper. It's great for black and white. It's just toned, starting with toned paper. This, I don't even remember the name of the brand. I got this a while back. This is Kona. Oh yeah, Kona Classic. Premium toned artist paper. Recycled. But this stuff does not take a lot of water well. So I can't be doing things that are going to be like layering and building up of a lot of wetness. Not going to happen. So it's going to have to be kind of ink or nothing, right? So I think to start off, I'm going to go with just like a basic inking pen. And I'm going to keep sort of a piece of paper here off to the side. Always good to do. Just in case you have to test it out. Now, I am just using the Pentel brush pen. Pretty good stuff. I have a couple of these going back a number of years. I used to like this one a lot too, the FP5F. This is the FL2F. This is the fine one. A little newer. This one's kind of an older style. But this thing does pretty good to start. It's pretty fine, but it's a brush pen. So, you know, I don't know if you can see this here, but it, you know, it goes pretty fine. And if you press down though, you get a pretty good width on it. So this is just going to be like drawing. I think in the beginning here, it's just going to be like just drawing with an inked line. But watching pressure because, yeah, you press hard, it will flatten things out. Inking can be intimidating, no doubt, but it's one of those things where the more you do it, the more you have a sense for it. Just like anything, right? The more you really learn like what the pressure is. You also learn a little bit like how to breathe. You still got some tone paper, B? I love the tone paper. You know, tone paper is great because if you think about what makes up a picture, you know, like 60% of the picture is the middle values. So if you're already starting on tone paper, then really with just a little bit of black, maybe adding some white, and we could do some jelly roll pens a little bit later. You can create dimension pretty quickly. All right, it's looking pretty good. Just kind of getting used to the kind of pressure and also paying attention a little bit to the way that this is embracing the paper. So obviously if you squeeze a little bit, you can see that we're getting some ink from the from the cartridge that's filling in. And then you get a wider. But I'm not really interested in that yet. Those will be my spot blacks. The thicker the line, the heavier you tend to make the form that you're using line on feel. So if you use a really thin line, it's a lighter weight. So as I'm doing this, I'm paying a little bit of attention to Sorry if I'm getting a little quieter now. I think I'm paying a little more attention to what it is I'm doing. I'm moving out of design phase. Hey, tea break. Let's do it, everybody. Tazo chamomile. My favorite of the chamomiles. Again, Tazo. I had to get endorsements. I should. I get tea endorsements on my art stream. No, but I love the Tazo chamomile and the mint, which you guys have heard me wax poetic about. But it's got like a little bit of rose in it, I think, and a little something citrusy. So it's not quite as grassy as some of the chamomiles are. What are you guys drinking out there? The tea industry is endorsing the arts. They should, right? I mean, don't we drink enough products as artists that, I know Monster is filling the guts of a lot of my students, the college. Seems like only right they could give like endorsements to artists. But I don't trust the energy drinks. I did one of those one time. It was pink. And I'm a coffee drinker, as you guys know. And I tried one of those one time, and that beep me up. I was shaking. I did not like it. I was edgy. It was crazy. And I drink coffee every day. And have for probably 40 years, 35 years. And I had one of those one time, and that shit screwed me up. I can't encourage people to drink those energy drinks. But I've seen my students drink them for breakfast and lunch and every day. That can't be good. That can't be good, guys. Even coffee. I mean, I've gotten myself down to like 1 cup a day. But geez, those energy drinks are crazy. The really fun part about inking is sort of stepping out of the design now and really learning to read the language of your marks. And this is where, comics especially, I mean, that whole way of making art is based upon this relationship of a designer leaving something in pencil, at least traditionally, and an inker coming along and watching the notifications and how that designer uses line to know what they wanted. So it was a symbiotic relationship. And a lot of comic people will ink themselves. I think today there's a lot of people doing both. At least the indie comics. Some sort of working my way. Working my way back to you, babe. Oh, where was I? I was talking about Cosmos here. I got to get my Cosmos jam going. For those of you listen along at home, Cosmos, not Cosmo D. Yeah, baby, that's me. If you know that one, we got to talk. Jam on it. Sorry. No, Cosmos. We were talking about Cosmos. That's going back. All right, let's see here. I'm going to play this in my head. I have a little selection from the album in my head going right here. Oh, yeah. This track, Space Time Continuum. I'm hearing like heavenly sort of strings. There's a piano, really high, almost voices echoing. Looking at this painting of my dad on my wall here. Yes, this is not my first rodeo painting and drawing my dad. How could you not? Anyway, Space Time Continuum. So check out Cosmos, the soundtrack for the show, not the book. The book was good too. Carl Sagan, right? The soundtrack. You're hearing strings. Oh, I can't even describe it. It's like so beautiful. I feel like I'm like floating in a spacesuit and we are just adrift. It's beautiful. Beautiful. I wish I could tell you the name of the composer on this exact track, but I will tell you that if you can find Cosmos, the soundtrack, Space Time, it's a great start to finish. It's one of those things like the old days when we would listen to a whole record. Yes, folks, a record, which we'll go into that another time. Recently, I've come across a record player, and I've been introducing my son to records, but we'll go into that another time. But the idea of listening, putting a record on and listening to the whole thing front and back, both sides, like, no jumping around to MP3s and singles, like just listening to the concept. And I know records isn't the only way we experience that. We did the same thing with tape, CDs, but the album, the concept album, was like a really fun thing that, I don't know, doesn't seem like I have to really make time to do it these days. All right, so let's see. How we doing here? How we doing? So I'm going to bring... It's funny, this track reminds me a little bit of that Chariots of Fire, which was a big album. I remember when I was a kid, everyone was like, ooh, Chariots of Fire, it's risky and risque. But it had that theme song of like these guys running on the beach. This has that kind of quality to it. Okay, so I'm bringing up the back of the helmet there. Moving my way up. And I'm not going to do it in one continuous line. I think, breaking it up a little bit is actually totally acceptable. It actually might kind of help me indicate that it's glass. I love drawing with this pen. So you just being able to do a quick thick and thin like that, brush pens are the best. I know if you're using one right now, you totally agree with me. Or even if you're not and you do like them, you know why. It's just when they flow, and that's the key, is getting one that really flows well, which is why these calligraphy pens, which is really what this is, like calligraphy pen that we're using, calligraphy brush that we're using for drawing. It's a level of supple, sensitive pressure that you're doing there. Okay, now working in this patch. One thing that I don't recommend that you do is drink a bunch of coffee before you're going to ink. I didn't drink coffee, so I think I'm okay. I'm having tea, which is hopefully calming me down. Again, tea break. Do it. B, did you say you're drinking energy drink tonight? What are you drinking, man? Whatever it is, I hope it's tasty. Okay, now this track, this was good. No, we're still in space-time. Continue. That's another thing. These songs are long, but they go through these like highs and lows, like you're on a ride, and epic. I'd love to play you guys this right now, but you know, royalties, it's not something I really want to pay for, but I'll just tell you to go get it. Give them your shekels. It's a great album. You will not have regrets. But again, get settled in. Listen to the whole thing, start to finish. Work on some art, something you can kind of focus on. It's the perfect space soundtrack if you're working on something spacey. You going LLC, huh? Partnership? Or just separation of professional and business name. What's your focus gonna be for your LLC? Sorry, my humming is probably totally annoying to you guys since you're not in the zone with me in my head, in my cans. The other interesting thing, and I'm sure there's a reason for this, but you know, a lot of these spacesuits are all white. And I don't know if that's just because, like, against the blackness of space, it would stand out more, maybe. This is the kind of stuff I would just ask my dad. And he would have an answer for me. He does. Yeah, if you ever need to know something, my dad is like the guy that will help you out with that. He knows a lot about a lot. All right, looking pretty good. Let's go for a little deets in here. Maybe a few lines. Again, you know, I'm just kind of combining a little bit of what I've seen in some references. Some of this I'm kind of even making up, you know. I'm sure some astronaut would be able to tell me exactly. Oh, no, 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 that's not there. That's not where that is. Like, oh, that's your pressure gauge. That's your pressure seal right there. If you don't put the pressure seal, your head blows up in space. But I'm kind of faking it here, so. Project X, baby. Oh, it just makes me want to sing, but what would be the point of that, right? You guys can't hear this, and that would be annoying. Glorious album. Oh, just takes me back to my childhood. We must have listened to this in our house all the time. All right, so white beard, and I'm picturing a little bit of light will be flickering up from the bottom. So I'm gonna, it's almost like I'm creating a little bit of a coarse shadow here. And I don't want him to have a dark grizzly beard. I want him to have a light beard, so I got to be really careful about the weight of my shading lines. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. It's also cut. This part reminds me of Space Mountain. Soundtrack for Space Mountain is pretty awesome too. Disneyland, pretty wild. It's like right here. You're not hearing it, but they're playing a little sound of like a countdown of like Saturn V or something like that. Like you hear the guys at Mission Control counting down, like from legitimate recording, not like real recordings of NASA at launch, not some guy faking it. So cool. Okay, we're gonna come in here a little bit around the mouth. I hear like sea voyages. So I'm going to leave some of this. I'm not going to get carried away here. Because sometimes it's about leaving the lights to the imagination. So I'm going to step away from too much detailing here on the face. This head sock. This part kind of reminds me of like Fantasia. Damn autocorrect. Hazmat, you still out there? You with me, buddy? All right. Now I'm on this track. What am I on now? Exploration. That's the name of this track. I'm hearing these really watery, kind of wet, spacey sounds. That's all I can describe it. I wish they were could tell you more. It's kind of stuff you would hear in the background on a Star Trek episode when they're on like the '60s show, when they're on like the planet. You hear this like. All right. Let's work some more on these patches. Patches. We'll finish up the helmet, then we'll go in on the details on the face. I got to move this thing along a little bit. I'm never going to get done. A little bit of help on these NASA letters. I don't want to define them too much. Again, we're sticking with the dimensional qualities, so outlining things. Nothing can really flatten your drawing more than just completely outlining something. Let the eye fill it in, right? A little bit of help. I can tell you that this will probably be like white. And then we got this. There's probably a name for this thing. That kind of goes behind the letters. I don't know what this thing is. It's like a big triangle. Kind of cuts across the S. Again, sorry, Pop, if I don't remember. It kind of comes up like that. So I'll be doing some spot blacks here shortly, but I've got a sense of some weight of some lines working and a map for where I'm headed. Okay. A little bit of delicate work here. Sorry I'm turning this, but this is the only way I can do this. I need the consistent. All right. A little bit of the nose. Bits of creases. We will be moving eventually into doing some darkers, but I'm kind of just getting the big stuff. I like the idea that this has a little dimension to it. Like there's an ear under there. I think this stuff is soft. Bit of the head there. So we're getting into some features. Oh, let me work on the Tycho so I can kind of leave the bottom part alone. Switching soundtracks now. We're going to move over to... I have this one called Space. Space and Beyond. Battlestar. The new Battlestar was amazing. If you haven't seen Battlestar Galactica, frackin' go see it. And then you'll get the frackin' reference. Hope you're doing well. By the way, if I guess a good time as any to plug myself, so you'll see right above me there is my info. You can check me out at TreyGallaher.com. Facebook, I'm on Art by Trey Gallaher, and Instagram is Trey Gallaher. Twitter too. and of course my YouTube page, which is where a lot of these streams go after their life at Twitch. They move over. So if you want to catch some of my old streams, you can check me out there. We're going back a couple seasons now. All right. I'm noticing I'm a little quieter when I ink because I'm actually controlling my breathing a little bit. I'm tightening up my diaphragm as I go into certain areas. So I tend to get a little tighter, more than I would designing something. It's a good ab workout, inking. All right. Let's dive into that face. Let's get into it. Meat and potatoes. I think I'm going to thicken my line up a little bit as I get towards the back here. So what else is happening? What can we peruse while we're working here? You guys got anything good? Oh, we lost him, huh? All right, Hazmat. Well, good luck to you, man. Come by anytime. If you have questions, want feedback, which is, by the way, something I'm really kind of hoping people feel free to do, which is on the Discord channel, which if you look in the contact or about information here, I have a link to the Discord channel for the stream here, which is really, I'm just looking at it as a place where we can keep talking, chatting. You'll get announcements if I have something there. If you want to ask me a question and I'm off stream, I'll get notified, so we can kind of chat there too, continue the discussion after we're done streaming. So yeah, feel free to join up there. But I'd like to be able to give people feedback if they want it. If you want it, I'd love feedback myself. If you think there's something you'd like to see in the stream or something we talked about, you want more information, links, whatever. This is kind of thing I think would be good at the Discord channel. Put a little bit of a lip here around this thing because it seems like it's like a swimmer's hat or something. Got this little area down here. Oh, nice. Perspective, B? You doing that in 2-point? I love perspective. It's challenging, but once you get it down, no sweat. All right, so we're doing pretty good with the line. I'll start working my spot blacks here. Shortly. Okay, now we're going to do some lines in the forehead here. Really light. That's good. That's not bad. Let's give me a little bit of my we'll be going in there. We will be getting some of those lights, some of those shadows. So you can see that I'm beginning to pop in some suggestion of core shadows, right? Which I'm sort of working towards. So that means all of this is like the inside of the helmet here. So I've got to think about how I'm going to decide to address tone on the inside of the helmet. And I'm going to have to also do a little bit of cleanup here. Eventually. 1 point. Good old 1 point. Can't go wrong. So you going off to the side a little bit? Edge of the cone of vision? Or are you staying right in the middle? All right. Okay. So that means the inside of all this will be pretty much... there'll be a light edge here, some shadow edge here. Maybe some inside paneling. Kind of help with the curvature of things there, giving it some dimension. The clear glass. Some dark areas in here. I'm going to put a little bit of this, starting in with some of my spots. Okay, so now I'm going to lay in with some spots and see what I can do. And the decision is, how are you going to address texture? Contouring. Not everything's going to be a spot black, right? So you have to find An interesting way to describe the contour, describe the texture and the surface, all while using a line. And yes, that is tricky. Some of it's instinct, years of doing it. It's a language. It's like speaking a language. You learn when to use it or not. So my dad's hair kind of flipping up here. You'd probably be like, why'd you give me hair flipping up? No, actually, he wouldn't say that. But I want the weightlessness to kind of be there. I thought that might be kind of neat. Maybe the hair is kind of lifting up a little bit. All right. Let's do a little bits of detailing. All right. Now, the thing to remember, couple things you got to keep in mind when you're inking is contrast, right? So spot blacks are going to be the darkest places in the picture where you want to draw the attention because it's really just a dark contrasty area. But contrast also makes something the focal point. So if you don't want it to be the focal point, probably shouldn't do it or lay off. Even if you know something to have its local tone or value is dark, we're not coloring here. It's a light and shadow game, not a coloring and tonality game. We can handle that separately, but for now, it's all about the suggestion of light and shadow as it helps describe the form. So I'm going to come in here a little heavier, for instance, with the mask. This back edge for me is going to be silhouetted as it describes the form. I may switch up inking pens here too, actually. Because I don't think I would necessarily use this to fill. Little tone and texture as we're going up against the edge of the NASA. Thickening some lines on what I'm assuming the spacesuit is going to be otherwise mostly white. Thicker lines back here. I'm going to go spot black back here because I want this to have like a reflection. Maybe it's metal. Thicker lines. Go over these guys again a little bit. And it's all about the transition of spots into texture. How are you going to handle those? Oh, Horsehead Nebula. Let me get a little bit of details here. I think it's in the Orion. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, that was pretty close. So you got to create this kind of horsehead shape. I can't remember my dad's face, but I can remember the shape of the Horsehead Nebula. He'd be proud. He is proud. I keep saying he would be, but he is. My dad is alive and doing well, by the way. Sorry, Dad. Sorry, dude. Just celebrating what you mean to me. So, I love you. Jupiter. Let's get a little reference here on my Jupiter reference too, right? What does Jupiter's spot look like? Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, you know it. You know it. So we've got these kind of banding dealies going in here. So let's see. And then we'll go with like some sort of galaxy, which will probably have this kind of negative space that's black around it, which means that somewhere out in here, I'm going to have to start to transition this into the reflection in the glass. Somewhere out here, and I don't exactly know how I'm going to do this. So I'm going to do a little bit of this texturing of what feels like the inside of the glass. It's sort of contouring a little bit. This is where I got to hold my brush up so that the ink runs down, but that gets a little dry brushy, which I'm not opposed to. I want to make my dad's head stand out a little, so I'm going to be putting some contrast up against that edge. Lots of light catching off the hairs. Okay. So the parts with the least amount of distortion will have the flattest black. Otherwise, we're going to start transitioning out. But this is the top of the head here. There we go. Then, of course, we got this sort of outer rim of the glass, just sort of giving us that reflection. We'll probably put lots of little highlights in there. That's good stuff. Klaus, that was a great film, dude. Stylized. Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful stuff. All right. All right. We got our flag in there. A little bit of shadowing. Again, you're shadowing the form. You're not toning. So that's an important distinction to make. Okay, the nose, bridge of the nose. It's got a little bit of an indent there. A little coarse shadow. Okay. A little feathering up here. One thing I find when I'm inking is not to stay in the same area. Keep moving around, because I think you get fixated on something, and more importantly than any other time, true with painting too, but it's all relative to the whole picture. So if you're just buckling down on one particular area, I mean, unless it's the finishing touches, then chances are you're forgetting about something on the other side that is relevant. But you're making decisions in a microcosm, like a small little area. So you wanna move around. So I'm putting a kind of a little bit of striping here, but it's more like contouring than texture, really. But this is where the light's hitting up top, and I have to create the sense of form shadow. So I'm gonna probably merge some of this in. Put me in here for a second. All right. So let's do some big space before we come back to some details here. How are we doing on time? What are we at? Yeah. It's always relative, right? So you don't want to get caught being in one area too long because then you really forget about the rest of the picture and no one will ever hone in on that one area you're working on. All right. So I'm going to switch brushes from using this kind of calligraphy portable brush to using something that makes it a little bigger mark. Tea break. Take a sip. All right. For this, I'm going to bring out the big guns. Series 7. Winsor Newton. The preeminent inking brush, many would say. Raphael's too, but this is a good all-purpose watercolor brush, which I'm using for really inking. I mean, you can use it for anything, but it's a sable brush, so it's really creates a good tip on this thing. So I use this one specifically for inking. And then I usually use a lid, something like this, and I'll put a little bit of ink in it. And I think for this, I'm using India ink. So you can see, just using some Rapidograph ink. And there's all kinds of India ink. I mean, there's Speedball, you name it. This one in particular is good for brushing on. Some inks are good for, like fountain pens. Some are good for crow quill pens. Some are good for brushing. This one in particular I like for more brushing. So I've got a couple different inks here, but I'm going to put a little bit in here. Okay. Little of this kind of build up because I'm going to dab. Okay. So off to the side here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So I'm kind of keeping this here to test my thickness. You can tiny dab of water if you want to thin it out, but I have to be very careful because this paper specifically is so thin, it just doesn't take water well. All right, so let's start here, and I'm gonna brush kind of up, and I'm creating a little bit of that dry brushing thing for space, sort of here behind, kind of following again. This is where your penciling lines can really aid you in creating dry brush and direction of dry brush. So I want to contrast the edge so that that suit sticks out, but I'm also going to fade it off. So I'll start to do some of that. And I guess this is where you're going to get a little bit more of that impressionistic or expressionistic quality of space. But I do a little painterly, right? But it's implying the darkness that is sort of behind the helmet here, right? And by contrast, it will also kind of feather out some of these spaces inside the head. The other thing is you get a really nice black when you use a regular traditional brush, which is how inking at its best is done, I think. I love doing it with the brush, but yeah. It's convenient to have the calligraphy pens and things like that. But you get really nice flat blacks when you do it this way. Okay, a little bit over here as well. So I'm kind of using that edge and lift, 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 lift. And it's going to be streaky and all that, but that's going to be my expression of the brush. That's the dry brush creating the texture that I'm wanting. That's the quote unquote artistic part, I guess, is the expressionistic qualities of using the brush. So I think the key is not to over control it too much. This gives it almost like a texture, a paneling, if you will. But I'm leaving a little halo around the glass too, so it's going to fade out for sure. Key is I'm working same direction. I don't want to do too much darkness on this side. This side I'm wanting to be a little bit lighter. I'm going to get a little titch of water just to keep it running, keep it fluid. Not too much though. And there's a lot of techniques for applying the black here. I'm going to try just the dry brush first and just see what I get. See if I like the texture. I figure enough of this is going to be really hard-edged and smooth, so it's okay to have some parts back here that are going to be the ink gets a little more thicker, more condensed, a little less fluid over time. This is not a brand new Rapidograph India ink. I've had this thing for quite a while, actually. Turning the brush a little bit on its side. Oh, I love this track. I'm getting, I think it's Deep Space Nine. Yes. So we're kind of, in broad terms, we're vignetting here, which is that we're fading the image in and using a little bit of the dry brushing to get us up against some of those edges. It's instinctual. I don't really have a plan for it, except that I've done a little bit of this kind of dry brushing before, so you get a little sense for it. But, you know, practice, right? If you come over here, just practice a little bit. Lift, lift, lift. Again, don't try to control it too much. I think it's... You're creating a background. The other thing I would say is the background has to be consistent and uniform in its direction. That's what's going to make the form pop out against it. So you can't be going different directions. You gotta stay with the same directions, at least in this case. Not in all situations, but in this case, it's making this stand out against the background. Strengthening the silhouette a little bit here. Again, one of the great things about these brushes is that you can do thick and thin with the same brush and get really effective marks. A good inking brush should hold a tip, really good tip on it. And if it doesn't, get rid of it. Use it for texturing or something else. Like I suppose I don't need this sharp brush. This is a Series 7 number 2. You need the tip for the fine line work, but really you could scumble and do all kinds of stuff with any kind of old dried up brush can work. All right. If you thin out your ink, you can get a little bit of a tonal wash. It's happening a little bit up here because I've got some thinned out ink. Oh yes, Battlestar. The old one. So I'm judging like how much darkness do I need. I think I need some up here. I'm kind of finding that balance so that the contrast comes back. And it doesn't have to be continuously black, so I'm okay if it breaks up. It just has to communicate that that's the darkness of space back there, which I think is going to probably be communicated through the suit as well. So it also kind of give you a chance to Kind of see what I'm doing here. It's getting a little thick. Dropping occasional bits of water right at the edge there. Mixing it in. I don't want too thin. It's good to shake it up a little bit too before we pour it out. This is going to be some sort of high point over there. Kind of thinking about the composition, echoing the high point of him. The space has to kind of be equally high point behind that, maybe, or maybe not. Maybe it's he's breaking through the space, so then maybe I got to bring this up a little bit. Same direction to get the uniformity. Gonna bring some of the now I can start to feel it, right? I can feel where the areas where I want to connect these dark areas. Like, I love this little area. I'm not sure I would touch that much more, but I love how this kind of goes into the blackness over here. So it needs a little more kind of weight. I might step away for a little bit, maybe work on some lights. There was a reissue. Yeah, they're reissuing Garbage Pail Kids, actually. I saw that too. Like you can buy them in bulk, like you can buy like all like sets of the whole thing, but they're not the originals. They look a lot like the originals, but they're reprints with the additions of new and old kind of together. I've seen those, yeah. My wife came across a batch and she's like, "You want these?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think I loved these, but if these are not the originals, I don't know." I have my original Star Wars cards. That was the for me as a kid getting cards, collector cards from the store. We go to this one convenience store which carried them. They always had the gum in, the bubble gum inside. I don't know if your generation had that, but we had bubble gum in ours. And that was just the greatest thing ever. I think this may need to connect back up here. I feel like I want this to connect. That's what I mean. Like you let it kind of tell you. I feel like this needs to connect into one mass. These clumping masses need to kind of come together. So I'm going to dump some big time on here. What the hell did I do to my wrist there? See my watch. Okay, closing it up. I can feel it. Like this side needs to close up a little bit. That feels good. Up, 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 up. Whatever direction you go, you just want to stay consistent. That's the main thing. Okay. Maybe I need to close this in a little bit. I want the weightier space, I think, on this side. Be a little more on this shoulder over here. This needs to maybe go up a little dry brushing up here. But a little more of this NASA. Oh, so I got to tell this story since we're talking about my dad and class and art and all that good stuff. So for years, my dad in his physics class, in his classroom, he had this great diagram illustrated poster of the space shuttle. And this was something I think it came out in National Geographic magazine. And so for years, we'd look at this detailed schematic, amazing hand painted illustration of the inside of the space shuttle. And it was an incredible job. Just artistically, like nothing I'd ever seen, but just the detail was incredible. It was in my dad's classroom for years on his wall. Table of elements, all that good stuff that you see in your science classes. Little did I know that, years later I would be in college. Well, relative years later I'd be in college. And lo and behold, I had this teacher. And I went to, for my undergrad, I being in the Bay Area, I went to San Jose State. And one of my teachers I had who absolutely amazed me was this artist and teacher there named Baron Story. Now, if you're a Bay Area person, you know who Baron Story is because Baron's been around here for a long time. But at that time and at that age in my life, I didn't know really who he was, except that I loved his work that he showed at school, and he seemed amazing, and I knew he had this really interesting career. But lo and behold, turns out Baron Story did that poster of the shuttle that I had been watching in my dad's classroom all those years. And he had done it like in the early 80s. So by the time I got to college, it would have been like early 90s, I had lived with this image in my head for a long time. Come to find out, it was my teacher. How amazing is that? Also, the same teacher, Baron, did one of the books I had in my locker all through high school. One of the most famous images I think he's probably ever done, or most widely published. I don't know if that's true, but it seems like it, at least in my life, was the cover of The Lord of the Flies. So what a small world it was to suddenly be in college, and I'm studying with this amazing teacher, only to find out I've been staring at his work for years in my locker and in my dad's physics classroom. Life is weird, people. And I ended up becoming, friends with Baron, and took class with Baron, and really spent some time. I interviewed him for my thesis. He was really influential on helping me pick my thesis topic for my master's, not at State, but back in New York, at Syracuse. And he introduced me to Robert Weaver, which had a big influence on me in my drawing and my illustration. And Baron just kind of changed my life. But little did I know, Baron had been kind of around my life all those years before. So, yeah, amazing how these little circles close. You're like, whoa, then that must mean this. Okay. But yeah, I remember years later, I'd be like, Dad, I met the guy who did the shuttle poster. He's like, what? No, and I don't think he necessarily knew who the artist was either, except that we had just been in amazement of his work. And then come to find out he was my teacher. And it was just like this kind of blew my mind, to be honest. So, but that kind of tied my dad and my life with my dad together with my life as an artist. So suddenly it was like, yeah, these guys, these illustrators, this amazing illustrator whose work I love and I want to do work like that as an artist, was illustrating the stuff my dad was hanging in his classroom. So you can imagine like what that did for me. It just sealed the deal. Like, that's it. Storytelling, making pictures, the whole picture making process just sealed the deal for me. It just kind of brought two things that I loved kind of together. Yeah. These coincidences, maybe they're not such coincidences, So I want this side to kind of have a graphic edge to it, kind of ground it a little bit to like I don't want to call it a border, but it sort of implies a border. So like when the ink gets to a certain distance, it hits this kind of flat edge. I don't think I'm going to do that over here, but I'm going to do it over here. I might need a titch more ink. I'm getting a little dry. Let me see if I can get this to spread out in a little bit more. I've really been fortunate in my career and my education to meet some absolutely amazing artists. One artist I did not meet, which I wish I would have had a chance to before he left, was Alan Kober. Amazing editorial illustrator, pen and ink guy. Amazing work. But unfortunately, he was a bit ahead of me. And could not get to him before life did. but I did meet some other great, amazing, amazing artists. I can honestly say I've been fortunate enough to have really met and walked beside some of my heroes. A lot of people maybe can't say that in their field or the thing they do, but I have been fortunate. Okay. So now we get into really the art and the game of inking, because now the big stuff is starting to take shape. I've got a lot of areas kind of done. It's kind of silhouetted back here. So I'm thinking about the forms, thinking about the shadows. Having a blast. This is where it gets fun, guys. Now we're into the nitty gritty. And to me, there'd be like no better friend at your side than a brush. Because as you need it, you can go thick, you can go thin, you can go textured, you can do it all. So now it's finesse. It's finesse. Okay. So now it's the inside of the glass, right? So I'm going to go as far as I can now. I am pretty much figuring that I will be using white, okay? But I'm going to hold off as long as possible, really, to use the white. Because one, I don't want to use it too much, but two, it won't be effective if you use it everywhere. So it's going to be all about doing as much as I can with black and then really trying to save just a little bit for which you can't do with two-tone, and then you have that little bit of that top range to help you. I am into the Star Wars now, I think. What am I doing right now? Oh, Duel of Fates, that's right. Duel. The Duel. Qui-Gon. Those voices are insane. Okay. Okay, so I think I gotta work in some darks in here. It's the inside of the suit. I want the light on him to pop. So how do you get that form to turn? You got to push the background darker. I'm following the contours of the helmet, so I can still suggest the inside of the helmet. What are we doing? We're at the 2.5 hour mark, huh? I better pick this up. I don't want to be here all night. Well, actually, that wouldn't be so bad, but keep that tip. Okay, you start reaching this point where your brush is drying out. You need more ink. Okay. We get a nice tip on there. I'm going to go back in with a little bit more ink here. More ink, the more your tip will hold. The more you use water, the more it'll start to flare out. And I don't really want to do more of that dry brushing right now. So I got some nice clean liquid in here. because I need that nice clean line. Okay, now this is the shell, so this is going to need sorry, I got some really nice cosmos again in my head. So I'm just enjoying that beautiful music with this is at its best, guys, right? Beautiful piece of music on. It's late at night. It's like meditative. That's why we do it. You're in the zone. Everything is okay. Okay. Now, I'm going to double line this just to, I don't want to fill it solid, so I need to give it a little something edge. Just to make it interesting. Okay, the inside of the helmet's looking pretty good, but I got to close off a few shapes to give it some weight. Make it solid. Parade of the Ewoks. Yeah, I know how a lot of people feel, but in retrospect, for what it was, it's Jim Henson, man. Come on. Frank Oz. Genius. Artistry. I'm glad that in the new movies they tried to bring a little bit of that puppeting back. I think it ties it so much more to the earlier films. Gonna need some dry brushing in here. One advantage I'm seeing through my Stream Deck here, I can see the image small. It actually kind of helps tell me a little bit what I need. It's that thing we do of like standing back and go, seeing it smaller, right? Gives us a little bit of distance. So where the edge of this spot black meets the edge of the helmet, that has got to be crisp. Again, it's that area of darkness up against something that you know is solid that has to be a crisp, clean line. There are many areas that can be dry and, rough. But where you have a solid next to a solid, you gotta have it be. Yeah, it's feeling pretty good. Dada, if you watch this, I hope you're enjoying this. This is for you. Happy birthday. I hope you have a really great one. Thanks for all the wonderful inspirations you've given me over the year and on so many walks of my life. All the many things I've learned and you taught me. All right, so let's spot up a few of these on the inside. Same thing. You have a solid going up against a solid. Ooh, that was a little clumpy there. Not so good. I mean, it'll dry flat, but so we need to echo the outer rim. And you have to figure that the image is warping in here, right? It's warping because the glass is curving. But then the glass gets just flat enough from our perspective that we can see straight through, and then we get some darkness there. Now in this case, I'm brushing on this ink to follow the contour because the image is following the contour. So it's kind of flattening out up here. Spiraling galaxies. I got my Horsehead Nebula down here, which I can't lose. I don't know if they'll see it. I don't want to lose that. My parents' first date. It's funny, I'm listening to Star Wars and I'm hearing those themes. My parents' first date, my mom and my dad here, this dad, which I'll talk more about some other time, but um, their first date was Star Wars. Come on, it's in the cards. That's not when I was born, by the way, but their first date, my dad here and my mom, their first date, one of their first dates was Star Wars. I think they told me it was their first date. So I think they went to dinner and a movie or something like that, and it was 1977. Which means I must have been being babysat or something. They had known each other a long time. How cool is that? What a great story that is. Okay, there's our Jupiter. Keep that brush flowing. It's getting a little dry. Need a little bit of ink up here. There's going to be this thin line that's going to be kind of around the edge of this thing, I think. Okay, so that's I got to start determining I think my helmet structures here. How you guys doing out there? Tea break. Let's do it again. The thing I love about this chamomile, even when it's kind of cool to room temperature, so tasty. So tasty. Thicken up that line a little bit. Battlestar Galactica. I think of the TV stuff, man, I don't know. I was a next gen guy, but I love that Battlestar stuff. Those Cylons were the coolest thing ever. They're a badass villain. Even in the new ones, the remake, it took me a while to get it, to kind of get onto the new Cylons, but if you're gonna redo them, they did it right. They did it right. But there was still something that really held up about those older models. That's what they call them in the show too, the older models. Not the skin jobs, but the... All right. Well, I think before I do anything more, I gotta give a little dimension here, but I think I gotta start heading into some white, just so I have a scale, because I don't have any... back into the cosmos now. Now it's like texturing. It's little bits of marks here and there that give a little bit of surface description. Decision time on a few of these areas. kind of think I want to fill this into. So this will be our break. We'll have our little break up here. This will keep continuous, so we get a nice circular shape. I could maybe go a little darker here, like a little more blackness of space. He's kind of looking there, so in a way it kind of seems like maybe there should be. It should be a little higher. All right. Well, And it comes back to those pipes. I'm hearing Scottish pipes. The bagpipes. My dad's heritage is Scottish. And probably a little German in there too. Okay, now we're into those halftones here. A little Jurassic Park. Or... Sorry, guys, I know. We don't need the humming. Listen up your jam back there, huh? So now I'm watering down the ink a little bit. Just for a smoother effect. It's like a wash of ink, which gives me a little bit more halftone effect, I guess. get it a little thinned out. All right. We're getting into the bottom of the ninth here, folks, and it's going to be time to be going to bed because it is getting late. I may stretch this into a third one because I really do want to do a little bit more. I really want to do a little bit more in terms of like some of the whites and the highlights, and I don't really want to rush them just to get them done. So I think what I might do is call this tonight because it's late where we are. I don't know what time it is where you're at, but and maybe pop back tomorrow night or something, and you know, just to see if maybe I could work a little bit on some of these little highlights and stuff. And really take a little bit of time for some polishing because I don't really want to rush this right now. And it's just getting to the point where it's going to start to be a little rushed to finish, and I don't want to. This is something I'm going to give to my dad for his birthday. So I may come back in here for one more sesh, like maybe an hour for some finishing touches, because we are getting into the wee hours. I got a little munchkin that's already gone to bed. And I miss him. And we are hitting the long hours here, so we're almost there, but I just don't want to rush it. So I really do think we're gonna take this into a third session, but I'll have to do it because I got to get this thing done. So it will have to be maybe tomorrow morning or something like that. But get some highlights in there. Some little things to make it pop. Make some of these forms really sing a little bit more. But I don't want to rush it, and I'm getting kind of pooped. This has been a blast, though. Been wanting to do this for a while. Give Jupiter's rings a little bit of curvature there. A little bit of the galaxy. Some fresh eyes on this too. I'll trust my judgment a little bit better than when I've been putting in this much time. You see things that you didn't see before. All right, guys. Just a couple more. A few crispy edges. Chunk up some of this space. Get it? Space? All right. A few chunkier parts over here. Got to connect a few of these negative shapes over here. Gotta connect them. Make a solid out of them. Not bad. So these halftone smears, this watery stuff, is really working nicely for the illusion of the glass. So as the density of the glass changes with the curvature, you get more transparency or less, so it gives me a little bit of a halftone effect. Little dimension here to the beard too. And I think with some lights on this thing, little bits of light, this thing is going to sing. All right. Well, folks, I think tonight this has been fun. Thank you for hanging out with me this evening. Hope you got some work done where you're at. It's fun working together. Thanks for chiming in there, B. Nice to have you along. And our new friend, Hazmat, welcome. And if you were new, remember I am Trey Gallaher. I am out here most weekends, usually Saturday night. You can find me on Instagram, Trey Gallaher, YouTube, Trey Gallaher, all the Trey Gallahers. Ugh. You can see it right there above me. I got a little bit of something heavy right here. Got a little too bulky. So we are going to dab that, and dab that. Always good to keep a cloth nearby. Never know when you might need that guy. Didn't really need it much tonight, but every once in a while, you get a little build up there. Just throwing some little tones. I'm just kind of enjoying a little bit of this. Because the suit's going to be white, right? So a little bit of tone in here is nice. And I'm going to hit it with some white next time. So we'll see some of the white next time. A little bit of finishing touches. I mean, we're 90%, 88% there, but that last 10% is fun. So, yeah, maybe tomorrow. I think maybe I got to get this out by next weekend, so I got to get this thing done. Hitting a little wash there. Yeah, I'm liking this tone more than I thought I would use it, but I'm liking it. It's looking pretty sweet. It's allowing me to turn my edges just a little bit more. And considering I'm doing this kind of on the fly, you know, it's giving me a little more flexibility. Which I am loving. Okay, guys. Have a good evening. Happy painting, drawing, inking, all the goodies. Have a good week. If you can't check me out tomorrow, come back tomorrow. Then maybe I'll catch you out here next weekend or some other weekend. Remember the Discord channel if you want to join the fun. Questions, want to contribute some thoughts, ideas, whatever. I'd love to keep the conversation going. And be good to yourself. These are tough times we are in, people. Tough times we are in. So be good to yourself. Give yourself a little break. Be so hard on yourself. And give a little space to other people around you. Not just for COVID, but just personal space, just emotional space. People are we're all dealing with a lot of shit. Sorry, pardon my Francois. My Française. But we're all dealing with a lot. So give each other a little space. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. And keep your passions forward, all right? Keep working on those things. Work on them. Work on them. A little bit at a time. You may not be able to get like 4 hours in one session, or what are we at, 3 hours and 30 minutes? Maybe you only get a little bit. But 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, it adds up. And keep your passions in front of you. It's what brings us our joy, right? Okay. Well, have a good evening or a good day wherever you are. and I'll catch you next time. Take care now. Bye-bye.